And join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Welcome to our August 21st meeting. I want to, please note Josephine Solis is absent. First is items from council. I've got a couple, but council, y'all have some things?
I got one, real quick one.
Go ahead.
Usually don't make personal announcements, but I'd like to say hello to my best friends back there, Jackson and Stella. They're here at their first city council meeting. And they're top students over there at Trinity. And glad to have them here today.
Well,
Thank
then
y'all for coming.
Yeah, wave. I know we saw y'all earlier. Wave to us. Okay.
So future council members,
Yeah.
Yes.
There we go. Very good. Well, welcome.
they're waving back there.
Anyone else have? I have a couple of items. I do want to recognize the consent agenda. I don't plan on pulling it, but D4, you'll notice Lyondale Basel. Did I say that right?
Basel.
Basel, Lyondale Basel, forgive me. That grant, I just want to recognize and thank them for the grant that we're receiving there in D4. I don't think anyone here is from the company is here, but we do appreciate that greatly. Also, the zoo, Liz, you're sitting behind the podium. Maybe so you don't have to sit through the whole meeting. You're at the very end of our agenda. If you can do your presentation a little early, would that be okay? Okay, what we'll do is we'll go right into that under citizens communications. Maybe see if anyone else wants to speak and then go ahead and get up and do your presentation. So, okay. Council, y'all don't have a problem with that?
That's great.
Moving her. I don't think she wants to sit through the whole meeting. Okay. Oh, I had one thing too. I wanted to clarify something. I was at a meeting this morning, the VDC 7:30 meeting. Jan, I believe you were there, so if I misspeak, you can correct me. And the question was asked about the Red River project and specifically the impact it would have on, Crestwood. See, I already made a mistake. The Crestwood project and specifically the impact it would have on Dick's Food Store. And the question was posed that we're taking land and we're not. I want that very, very clear that we're not taking anyone's property. You know, matter of fact, we paid for a survey of that food store, that lot, just to make sure we had it all right. And, you know, I think that project will make that area look really nice with the sidewalk and the concrete street and will improve pedestrian traffic around that particular store. The parking will be changed slightly. We've actually asked and had an engineer draw up a different schema for them for parking spaces, and they still have more than enough adequate spaces to meet the criteria for the city. So anyway, just that's city right away. We all own that right away. It's just they've been able to park on it for, you know, many years. Everyone's familiar with that store. So I'm hoping the project will go forward smoothly. Just wanted y'all to know that.
I appreciate you saying that for the record, because the way the question was posed, it was stated as a fact that the city was taking land, and that is not true at all. And it's difficult to catch misconceptions, but I appreciate you taking the time to try and get that clear.
Good, good. Okay, any other items from council? Seeing none, we'll move into citizens
You had some items.
Oh, yeah. We do have a proclamation,
Sure,
and you
this
want to
is-
read it, Mr. Attorney?
Sure. This is a proclamation for the South Texas Golfers Association, and it reads in part, whereas the Southern Texas section of the PGA of America is comprised of over 800 golf professionals representing more than 200 facilities in Southern Texas, whereas the STPGA held its first championship tournament in Victoria in 1968, and whereas the STPGA will hold its 50th anniversary championship tournament in Victoria in 2018, whereas the STPGA continues its 50-year mission to elevate the standards of the professional golfer's vocation, stimulate the interest in the game of golf for professionals and amateurs, and to promote overall vitality of the game. Now therefore, I, Paul Velasic, Mayor of the City of Victoria, Texas, do officially declare the days of August 27th through 29th, 2018 to be STPGA 50th Anniversary Days in Victoria, Texas. And it is signed by Mayor Paul Velasic.
Okay. OC, do you want to get a? Joel will pick it up. And Mr. Jacobs couldn't be here, Claude Jacobs, but this is an amazing tournament, and we're so appreciative of all their efforts, and especially the 50th year coming back. So this is really cool. Hope everybody gets to go out and watch the golf.
Blocked from the camera by somebody there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we can move into citizens' communications. So,
Is there another one, or?
no, that one
Oh.
is we're gonna take care of that at a later date.
They asked to pull it, they couldn't be here and asked to move it to September 4th.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Citizens' communication. So what we'll do is, anyone would like to come forward and speak about anything at all, please come up and just state your name for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes if possible. And Liz, if no one else comes up, see if anybody, I don't see anyone. There we go. Got to take her. Just come on up and just your name for the record.
Good evening, City Council. I kind of have a problem with the community that I live in. It's behind the old CP&L power plant. And some posts, well, I didn't give my name, did I?
That's okay.
My name is Ray Hill. Anyway, the streets are real bad. They need repairing. Street lights are out. I don't understand that. I'm a taxpayer. I can't understand that. I'm glad I don't have kids that's going to school. I'd be very upset with the city because they're not doing that part on that part of the city
Mr. Hill, where is it at exactly? I didn't hear.
behind the old CP&L power plant.
Okay, okay.
It's called Victory Heights. And like I say, the street lights are out. It's been a street light that's on the corner there at Sycamore, and it's been out since July. Like I say, I'm very disappointed with the city. They should do more. Like I say, I'm a taxpayer. I'm not getting my money's worth, not from the city. That's just my opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, so I just like to state my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. We can, actually, the streetlights are the utility, but I believe we call them in frequently when we know they're out, so we'll call, is
Yeah, I
it
talked-
AEP? AP, and we'll call.
I talked to a police officer last night about it, so
Okay,
he's making his round down the street, so he said he was gonna call it in.
okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on it and see if it doesn't get fixed in a few days or week or whatever. I don't know what the turnaround time is, but you're welcome to call the city manager's office too if you see that it doesn't get done in a reasonable time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Citizens' communication still open, if anyone else. Okay, well, Ms. Jensen, if you want to tell us about the zoo and give us an update.
Thank you for this opportunity. I prepared a PowerPoint presentation because I think a picture says 1,000 words. And I really hope that after this presentation, you're a little bit more excited about the Texas Zoo. There's a lot of changes that have been going on with the rebuild and so forth. We're not fully open yet, but we will be pretty soon. So we have a new focus at the Texas Zoo. We've had the opportunity to update a lot of facilities that were needing updating, and we've also done a lot of improvements. So this is just a new picture of what will be our new entrance through that main gate. The current entrance, which actually veers off to the left, will be something a little bit different, which I'll show you shortly. But we are really improving this zoo. So this is the current entrance or gift shop. It's been completely redone inside and out. This will now be our new field station and also an additional classroom, and we're pretty excited about that. This is a pretty boring picture, but we've have brand new updated administrative offices, excuse me, and a classroom. We also are really fortunate to have our clinic, which was really needed to be have some more maintenance on it. We've got a brand new floor that's actually flood proof, and we now have some animal holding and quarantine areas, so this will really give us much better options for caring for our animals. This is my favorite upgrade. This used to be kind of a red building. We refer to it as the education station. You'll notice that there are walls that are actually roll-up walls, so we can be very versatile. This will be a multi-use building. We can use it for classrooms, birthday parties, other events, and kind of an educational area for visitors when they come to the zoo. We also are pretty fortunate. We are going to have a kind of a makeover on our gift shop. We have somebody who has been a consultant for zoo and aquarium gift shops. They've done gift shops for Texas State Aquarium, San Antonio Zoo, all of the zoos in New York, Albuquerque. And she is redesigning this gift shop. It'll be more than just a gift shop. We plan to also have a lot of conservation messaging when people come into the gift shop. And so this is still under construction, but this will be in the main entrance, as I had pointed out in the very first picture. Now, the old den, or Animal Kingdom building, as it had been referred to, is now going to be called the Wildlife Encounters Building. What you see here, unfortunately, the images are covered in plastic because they've been doing some painting, but these are going to be exhibits. The large one is going to be an indoor aviary where people can actually go in and interact with some of the animals or the birds. And then we're going to have our educational ambassador animals on exhibit, so that people can come and see kind of what we do from an educational point of view. In this building, we're also going to have some interaction areas. Again, this is still under construction, but the two images on the left will be for younger kids. We'll bring in some, animals like prairie dogs or rabbits or what have you, so that young children have the opportunity to connect with wildlife, which is something that we're really going to start to focus on. We have a larger interaction area where people can get up close and personal with some of our other animals, like our otters and maybe a few other little surprises here and there. But one of the things that we really want to emphasize is kind of an experiential, rather than coming in as a spectator to the zoo, we really want them to interact with the animals, of course, in a safe manner. Now, that same building at nighttime or other times can also be event space. We can do various night events. We can do snooze at the zoo, sleep over at the zoo at night, or what have you, maybe speaker series and things of that nature. So it will serve a lot of functions for the zoo. Now, something that we're really wanting to emphasize also is we want the zoo to be a stronger community resource. And so we're currently developing more robust educational programming. We now have 3 classrooms. This is the large classroom that we have that was in the administrative building. The other 2, well, the field station will be one of the classrooms, and then we have another one. I don't have a picture of it here today. We are going to be offering programs from pre-K up to the college level. We have a lot of ideas that we're bouncing off of right now, and we're currently, as we speak, working on various curriculums. We've also are expanding our camp. Our Keeper Camp has been very popular this summer. We are going to be expanding that throughout the year so that people can participate in that, or children can. And as I had mentioned earlier, we really want the experience at the Texas Zoo to be more immersive. So kind of our motto right now is connect, learn, and then ultimately we hope that they want to help protect these animals. We're also in the process of developing some family field programs right in Riverside Park. It's a beautiful park. There's lots of wildlife, and the zoo just happens to be situated right there. Can't think of anything better. We also have the opportunity to use our brand new animal clinic, that we can develop other programming. There's a lot of young people that are very interested in getting involved in veterinary medicine. So we want to be able to provide programs for high school students, for example, or even college students to get involved in something like that. We had our very first internship program at the Texas Zoo this summer. We were very fortunate. We had 3 interns that came from all over the United States, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, and 1 person actually from Texas. Our newly renovated barn has Texas A&M colors, I must confess. This barn it's a beautiful building, and when I first arrived, it was really not being used at all. So we cleaned it up, and we now have our petting zoo. We also want to offer programming for young students, perhaps 4-H or whatever, that they can get involved. Something else that we really want to focus on is conservation. It is part of our mission statement. So this is something that we really want to put a stronger emphasis on, particularly for Texas wildlife. Let me just go back for a second. That is Bonnie and her new cub, Laguna, who was born this past February. So Texas Zoo is actively involved in the Species Survival Plan. The Species Survival Plan is really something that is a collaborative effort from zoos across the United States. In those pictures you see Spirit, our red wolf. They are highly endangered, and then the other image is a ringtail cat. So we've been working with other zoological institutions so that we can create more robust populations in managed care. We've also been involved in some various events that we've put on at the zoo. We had a first successful one, which was the International Otter Survival Fund. The one below it, it's going to keep moving in different languages, but this is for International Vulture Awareness Day. We're having a lot of fun with this. Vultures in the old world are facing a lot of threats, and so we have decided that we are going to really promote this. So if you want to come on September 1st to the Texas Zoo, we're going to have fun things like the vomit toss. We're going to have digestion demonstrations with vultures. Is going to be really fun. We've been having a fun time putting this together. I know it sounds pretty disgusting, but we're hoping that a lot of kids will enjoy it and have a lot of fun at the same time. Also, we're very interested in doing some field studies and getting the community involved. These are local bottlenose dolphins. I know we don't have dolphins at the Texas Zoo, but they are Texas wildlife. The image on the right is actually one of our keepers. This is in Costa Rica, where she was doing some work on macaws, a species of macaw that's highly endangered. So we really want to promote supporting our staff if they're interested in donating some of their time, and perhaps even we as the Texas Zoo, once we get a little more established, can also participate in these kinds of programs. So something else that we are also putting a very strong emphasis on is excellence in animal care. And we're really focusing on animal welfare, which is an important trend now in zoological institutions. So we're implementing higher animal care standards. We are revamping all the nutrition for every single one of our animals. It's quite a task. There have been a lot of building upgrades and also exhibit improvements. And animal welfare, as I had mentioned, is something that's really important. One of our interns that was here this summer, she was specifically studying animal welfare. And basically, in a nutshell, she picked one animal, which was our jaguar, and she observed them every day in little snippets. And we kind of quantified their behavior. In what areas did these animals appear stressed? Did they appear happy? And so forth, so that we, as animal care staff, can actually take better care of the animals based on this information that we're observing. Flood control. So we've put so much effort into what we're doing here at the Texas Zoo. And I am not a native of Victoria. I'm sure you can tell me a lot about the Guadalupe River, but we really, really know that it's important that we have to protect the zoo. We've put so much into this, and really, this is a gem of a zoo. So one of the things that we're actively looking at right now, we've been talking to some engineers, is to find a way to protect the zoo. We don't have answers yet, but this is a potential option. There's many other options on the table, but we do know that this is something that we really need to seriously address. So having said all of that, and as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, the Texas Zoo really is a gem in Victoria. I've been in this field for many years, and when I came to the Texas Zoo, the thing that really struck me was the beauty of the property. And also, I think it is a small zoo, but there's an intimacy about the zoo that I think you don't find in a lot of other facilities. And it is our hope that we can help make Victoria a better tourist destination. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I guess I have one. How's your attendance? Is it starting to rebound a bit? I know the hurricane was terrible for y'all.
It appears our attendance is starting to rebound. It's not quite as strong as it had been, but not by very much. So we have a lot of new things coming up in the pike, and we're really hoping that it'll create a stronger interest, in the zoo, which will increase our attendance.
Okay. So we just need everybody to go down, and I gotta say, these pictures are amazing, because I was there in the days following, and then I guess the last time I was there in October, and it's amazing. I need to come see close up.
Please do.
Because, yeah, it was
Yeah.
a sad situation. Looks like you've come a long way.
Thank you. It's taken a huge effort on everybody's part.
Yeah.
And so,
So that's our mission. Everybody has to go to the zoo now. All right, see you close up. Okay, well, thank you. Council, do y'all have any other questions? Thank you.
thank you for the opportunity.
I do. What time are the vulture activities on September 1, the full day?
They'll start at 10 a.m. and they'll run until 4 p.m. We don't have a solid schedule yet. We'll have activities throughout the day. We'll have a bounce house and a bungee something.
Okay.
And then we'll have vulture demonstrations, because we have 3 vultures. And then the fun activities, like the vomit toss and the don't pick your poison game, they'll be going on all day long. So
Great. Thank you.
you're welcome. You can always check Facebook,
Pardon me.
our Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Okay, so citizens' communication is still open, just in case anyone's changed their mind, would like to get up, speak about anything. Seeing no one, we'll close citizens' communication, and we do have 5 items that each have a public hearing. So under each one, I'll ask if anyone would like to speak on that individual item. C1?
Item C1 is an ordinance amending Chapter 24 of the Victoria City Code relating to fees increasing various fees for services administered by development services, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for codification and savings, and declaring an effective date.
So we'll open the public hearing on C1, and just for everyone here, 1, 2, 3, and 4 each are a different department, the fees related to those departments, and as the attorney read, the first one is for development fees. So if anyone would like to speak on development fees alone, now would be the time. Okay. Seeing no one get up, I'll close the public hearing on C1 and entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. Questions, discussions? Everything's pretty detailed in our packet, okay. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Okay. C2,
C2 is an ordinance amending Chapter 24 of the Victoria City Code relating to fees, increasing various fees for services administered by the Fire Marshal's Office, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for codification and savings, and declaring an effective date.
okay, so we'll open the public hearing on C2, the fees regarding Fire Marshal's Office. Anyone would like to speak to that item? Now's the time. Okay, seeing no one jump up, we'll close the public hearing on C2, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have motion and second. Questions from council?
I have one question. On the additional fee for each additional building for nursing home, assisted living, memory care, independent living, what's considered an additional building?
A truly separate structure. Some of those facilities have multiple buildings on their campus, kind of a campus-style facility.
Okay. Would that be like if they had a separate laundry facility? Or is it actual nursing home pods?
It would be actually the nursing home or the skilled nursing facilities. Accessory buildings would not be included in that. In fact, with some of the buildings we were looking at, there's one on John Stockbauer called Sedalis. Previously, they were getting charged a separate fee for each building. This would actually roll it into a little bit less expensive for them. So just trying to create that, just trying to fit the needs of the community and the businesses.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, council? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Okay, C2 passes. C3,
C3 is an ordinance amending Chapter 24 of the Victoria City Code related to fees, to revise and add fees related to the Parks and Recreation Department, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for codification and savings, and declaring an effective date.
we'll open the public hearing on C3, Parks and Recreation fees, if anyone would like to speak to those. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing on C3 and entertain a motion.
I so move.
Second.
We have motion and second. Questions for Mr. Colby? Mr. Alpasco?
Yes, sir. This relates to, it's just an observation, but related to the Boot Fest. The main problem we have down here when we put on Boot Fest is pretty much maxed out on square footage. And I know we're changing some of the fees for various types of booth, but we also need to look at it in perhaps a basis of income per square foot. If we could bring in more money by having more food booths and perhaps less, I'm trying to think of a good word.
Arts and
trinkets or-
crafts, or,
Yeah.
arts and crafts is good.
arts and crafts type items, we perhaps need to look at it on either an income per square foot or utility per square foot. Now, I know it's finished for this year, but going forward, do you think we could generate something that would make some sense? Do we have the right mix of, let's say, food booths and arts and crafts booths? Well, if we're limited on space, cannot expand, then we need to maximize the space we have. And that would then beg the point that we need to look at it either as a utilization, what numbers of crowds it draws perhaps, or income per square foot, what it's making for the old event. One of those ideas might generate a slightly different mix. The observation I have is many times the food booth lines are very long, and you don't see many lines trying to get into the arts and crafts booths. There are different times of the day when different things would generate more or less movement. And I just wondered if we had looked at that in that manner.
Mr. Alapaska, this comes on the Parks and Rec because in the fee ordinances. I'll turn that over to Joel. He deals with that side of it more than I
I
do.
knew that was coming.
Thank you, Councilman Haskell. That is some wonderful observations, and I do have some numbers on the number of merchandise compared to food vendors that we do have for Boot Fest 2018. We do have 45 merchandise vendors occupying 59 spaces. Some of those merchandise vendors apply for 2 spaces, so that's a 12 by 24 space. We do have 30 food vendors, which is the highest total we've had up to this point at Boot Fest. And that is a wonderful observation, and you're going forward, we will take a look at that, in terms of maximizing revenue potential per square foot. And looking at, how the vendors do this year. And, it's always a great balance trying to find, the vendors enough to where those lines are short, but where the vendors are doing well too and wanting to come back. So yes, that is something we'll definitely look at after this year and appreciate that feedback.
Thank you, sir.
Good thought. Yeah. Any other questions for staff on this particular ordinance? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. C4?
C4 is an ordinance amending Chapter 24 of the City of Victoria Code related to fees, increasing various fees for services administered by the Department of Public Works, including but not limited to an increase in the water and wastewater rate structure, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for codification and savings, and declaring an effective date.
So we'll open the public hearing on C4. If anyone would like to speak to Public Works fees, now would be the time. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion from council.
Make a motion to approve C4.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any questions? Donald's ready. This does have the new water rates that
Yes, sir.
that you've reviewed with us several times, I think.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. All right, ayes have it.
Thank you.
Number 5.
C5 is an ordinance amending the 2017-2018 City of Victoria General Fund budget to provide funding for the retirement of the Assistant Director of Finance, to provide funding for the health and dental insurance for the City Manager Department, providing for savings, and declaring an effective date.
So we'll open the public hearing on C5 if anyone wants to speak to this particular item. I don't think there will be. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt C5.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Did you want to explain? Did anyone have any questions?
I'd like him to explain just for
Okay.
documentation purposes.
Joel, you want to come up here and answer this? Okay. Council, as you recall, Andrew Jacob retired. It was unexpected on our part, so in order to take advantage of his time for the remaining few months, we went out and interviewed and hired individual Wesley, which has 8 years' experience in auditing, especially the governmental section of it. So it would behoove those just to me to overlap that experience while Andrews was here for the next 2 or 3 months. And Andrew was still paid to June 2018. So there's a cost there that was not anticipated. Now, on the city manager, that was my goof. I don't know how that number got in there. I just put the wrong number in the budget. That's all that I can explain about city manager.
Wow.
Actually, I noticed the first
Okay.
quarter, I said, this is not going to work. So
Okay.
that's
Well, you
the,
can't budget for what you don't know about either.
No.
no, Andrews, that was very, very unexpected.
Yeah.
And internally, we felt it was critical for Andrew to be able to share his knowledge.
Transfer that knowledge.
During that time period, and, because he'd been with us 20 years, had a lot of knowledge walking out the door.
And I think it was very, very beneficial. So I think it worked out real good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Just want to say, it seems like it's been a smooth transition, so if there have been bumps in your department, you've been able to insulate them.
We still get those sales tax reports.
We are
and
getting them,
timely
yeah.
and appreciate that.
And they're going up.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we have a consent agenda. You want to read that, sir?
There are 5 items on the consent agenda which will be approved by a single vote tonight. They are first, the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 7th, 2018. Second, an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Victoria City Code to adopt a retention schedule for city records in compliance with the Texas Local Government Code Section 203.026 and the Texas State Library and Archives Records Retention Schedules, including a provision that the city code will be updated automatically to reflect updates and revisions made by the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for codification and savings, and declaring an effective date. The third is a resolution to approve the purchase of 200 96-gallon waste carts from Toter in the amount of $12,490, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to complete the purchase and declaring an effective date. The fourth is a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a grant, if awarded, from Lyondell Basell in the amount of $2,000 to be used in the city's fire department, community education, and injury prevention programs, and declaring an effective date. The fifth is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Victoria County for the 2018 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program. Application to be submitted by the county in the amount of $23,300, of which the city is to receive $11,650 upon award of the grant, and declaring an effective date.
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. All those items passed. We'll go to E1.
E1 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to accept funding from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas's Disaster Rebuilding Assistance Program through its member bank, Trust Texas Bank, in the amount of $50,000, and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to accept item E1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions, discussion?
If council would look at the dais, I laid out a flyer for everyone. This will be an important marketing piece, but it really highlights the program. If y'all have any questions or have any, those in the public that approach you about the questions or about the program. But it's essentially a disaster rebuilding assistance program that will perform minor repairs, replacement, or rehabilitation caused by Hurricane Harvey. It is only for the low-income homeowners, and so there is a lengthy income qualification component to the application if we accept the grant. That is also detailed on the back of this flyer. But we're very excited that we will finally have some money to help some individuals repair their properties.
Now, the entire amount is $50,000, of which $10,000 maximum per applicant.
We're hoping that we can help between 5 and 10 homeowners.
Okay.
Really, we've sort of have an internal priority of roofs and major, electric services, things that are really damaged by the hurricane.
And applications open on September 4th and go through, was it December 3rd?
And it's a first-come, first-served basis, so.
And you have to pick up the application at the planning department. It's not a downloadable form on the city's website?
Correct.
Okay.
Is this home ownership, that's a requirement?
Yes.
And is a prior mortgage a problem, an existing mortgage?
No,
So they don't-
there are some additional paperwork and additional, I guess, levels of
So
review that we
if they
have to
have a
do.
mortgage, it's still okay?
But yes, we could potentially still help them.
Julie, will this information be on the website?
We can place it there, yes.
And the phone number to call.
485-3360.
Okay. I just know
And it's
people,
for Celeste Menchaca.
okay, some of the folks that watch these
You
meetings.
said 3360?
That's different than the
That's
flyer
different than
has.
what's on
This
here.
That's
is her
the main
direct-
number.
That's her direct line.
Yeah.
The main number is 33.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
And thank you to Trust Texas, too, for working with us.
Absolutely.
It did take a partnership, and we were thankful they stepped up and were willing to do that. So,
That's great.
Okay, no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you. Julie, E2?
Item E2 is a resolution granting a variance to Section 5-149 of the Victoria Code of Ordinances to allow the Texan, located at 7305 North Main Street, to have 2 permanent freestanding on-premise signs with a cumulative area of over 500 square feet, totaling 635.5 square feet, and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to approve item E2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Most of it probably driven by there and seen it already.
I don't have a question, but I just, have concerns. This is the second time this development of this property has come to us. I think we had some other variances, and so I know it's a really important intersection and a prime location, but it seems, it's disturbing to me that it doesn't seem to be able to fit within our ordinances without variance, but I think this one probably makes sense. I've got some personal heartburn about it, but I think it probably makes sense. I just wanted to express my disappointment.
Well, I understand. The longer we all spend up here, the longer we see the sign ordinance constantly coming back, because every situation's unique.
Right.
That's why it's my least favorite ordinance. It's impossible to apply it to every particular property satisfactorily, you know? And you were there when we redid
The
this.
problem is without it, then we have nothing to work with, so.
Yeah, I think the sign looks good that's there. So. Okay, any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same? Okay, thank you. E3,
Item E3 is a resolution granting a variance to section 21-92 of the City Code of Ordinances to allow Peaches and Tortilla Boutique located at 507 North Vine Street to open a commercial business and obtain a certificate of occupancy without having to provide off-street parking, allowing their patrons to utilize on-street parking and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to adopt E3. Second.
we have a motion second. Any questions?
I have questions.
Okay.
Will this variance be just for Peaches and Tortilla Boutique, or will it be for the property?
It's for the staff's answer. This is not citizens'
That's okay,
communication.
that's okay.
I would need to verify the resolution, but I believe our variances generally run with the property. You could potentially make a motion to amend that if you were to wish it to go with the property. And referring
Sorry, I'm
to
flipping to
the
the
resolution.
Yeah, take your
itself.
time, look, check.
Yeah.
Yeah, this particular ordinance is drafted with specifically the name of this business rather than to the property as a whole, and so this one is limited to this business.
Okay.
But the boutique's really on the side street?
Side Street.
On State?
Well, Staten.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
And there was a business there before.
Yeah.
Yes, there was.
Dogs.
Bike and run.
Then bike and run. Yeah, there was a
Okay.
dog business, and, yeah. Okay. So do you have your,
Well,
that answers your question.
yeah, it answers my question. I guess I'm just going to have to assume that business wouldn't become so successful there that it would be sold to a new owner and continue on there. I would think if it became so successful, they would probably move. And that's why I'm not going to try and limit it to this particular owner and this particular business as I asked in a different variance. But I just wanted to make sure it would be limited to this intended use and not the property itself.
I will say there's a couple other neat shops in downtown that are hidden gems that are fun to go to, and it's all on the street parking.
Right.
So at first I was kind of like, oh, make an exception, but we have this all occurring all over downtown, and it really creates a nice charm, I think, in downtown to find these places to go step into.
The other thing, that road is wide. It's much wider than most of the other roads in that area. I parked over there.
Yeah.
Son had drum practice in that exact same building in a previous usage. There's plenty of thoroughfare to drive down.
I guess until that whole place develops with unique neatnik places, and then they can fight it out over themselves.
The only time I've seen this be a problem is in the newer neighborhoods. That's when you see,
Right.
Roads aren't as wide.
yeah, not the the block system that's down there. Oh, I've had some irate people in my years here, but not downtown, so, anyway.
But that's,
Yeah.
part of the problem. It leads to that, well, we seem to be allowing it. And so, what makes it unique to this property and not unique to another property? So I just want us in the planning commission to be intentional and not just say, oh, yeah, it's, sure, why not? So,
Case by case.
right.
And that was a unanimous decision by the planning commission, correct?
It was, yes, sir.
In favor of the
With all-
variance?
Yes.
Yes,
But
with
the
all
plan-
those that were present.
But the planning staff recommended denial.
Correct, but the commission unanimously
Right.
voted for the variance. Okay.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay. Item passes. What's next? E4? Yeah.
E4 is a resolution approving the amendment to the Victoria Sales Tax Development Corporation's program and expenditures for fiscal year 2017-18 in the amount of $2,440,000 for the Placido Benavides Drive project in declaring an effective date.
Is this a
Make a motion to approve item E4.
second?
No one just, Jan, no one just wanted to do it. It's a lot of money. It's painful, but we got to. Got to pay for that road. So no public hearing on that one. I think that's where
It's
you.
their budget.
Right. So, okay, so we have motion, a second. I think everybody understands fully what this is about. No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you. C5, E5.
E5 is a resolution authorizing the city attorney to execute an engagement letter with Jason Hill of JT Hill and Company to continue the city's representation in the Kenneth Castle versus City of Victoria litigation matter and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to approve item E5.
Second.
Okay, motion and seconded. Discussion? None. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Item passes. So we have a couple of city manager reports.
Yes, sir. The first one is an ASR well 19 update from Donald. You know, we've run into some issues with that well and doing some research on it.
But just give us good news. We don't want any, I know you're gonna give us good news.
All right, so I came before y'all several weeks ago and kind of give you the first status update of that project. And at that time, I told you there was about we'd put about 20 million gallons of water downhole. And then when we started our backwash, our first backwash, we encountered an issue and started pumping some sand. At that time, or shortly after that time, y'all approved a contract with Weisinger to perform some work on that well to find out what was wrong with it, clean it up a little bit, and see step by step what we could do. So we performed the first part of that work, which was to remove the pumping equipment and sound that well to see how much sand was in it. What we found was that there was no sand in it. We sounded it all the way down to 1,035 feet, which is only 5 foot shy of how deep the well is. So there's some other debris in there, which may be a little bit of sand, but not nearly what we expected. That's the good news. The next step would have been to clean it up if we had to, and the cost for that was about $59,000. We don't have to do that work. We've TV'd the well. What we found was where the 18-inch casing meets the 10-inch casing, there's a gap in some of the rock that was in there had been pumped out during the backwash process, and that's where we think that we saw some of the rock and also some of the formation sand is where we were getting it. Not a whole lot, but just enough. As we went down the pipe, we hit about 835 feet, and we found some sort of an obstruction. It's very difficult to see in the video. The well's not real clear down there. But what it looks like is that the well casing had, for lack of a better term, imploded just a little bit. And so it looks like there's a hole in the pipe. The camera was able to get past that and come back up, get past it again and come back up without any obstruction. So there's no obstruction down there. However, as we videoed further down, we found that the screens in those bottom sections are very, very plugged. They've got a lot of calcium buildup and a lot of corrosion. And so we don't think we're getting a lot of water out of that section. What the contractor and our engineer are recommending is that we plug that well from that 1,035 feet up to about 830 feet, get past that obstruction, and use a bentonite to plug it, and then fill in some of that gravel that we've lost. And that work there will kind of offset the money that we would have used if we had to clean the well up. So overall, the project would stay about the same $233,000 that y'all have already approved. That's the recommendation that we have from our contractor and our consultant, and that's a recommendation that I'm bringing forward to y'all today, is that we move forward. And even though it's going to be a a little bit of loss in capacity because you're going to lose a couple of 100 feet, we still think the rest of the well is viable. It looks good.
How do they keep that bentonite from traveling?
That's a very good question that I don't know the answer to. I think they put it down there with pressure and they let it sit for a couple of days and it holds with that pressure and solidifies, stays in place.
Why are they using bentonite instead of cement, hydraulic cement?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I can't answer that question. I know that's more of a.
Well, I used to work in the oil field and they would normally use cement and I
Yeah.
wondered,
I
Why
can't.
Might be
bentonite?
pressures. Might be pressure related.
could be. And why are we not going further up? Because the two strata we're shooting for is Evangeline and the Chico aquifers. Those are the two most productive ones, which are higher up yet.
Yeah, they are a little bit
Is that just to
higher.
save some money or?
Well, you got to remember that as you come up and you're plugging just to the screen. So the next level is just a solid pipe. So your next screen level is probably in the two,
Evangeline
in
and
the
Chico?
two formations that you're talking
Okay.
about.
I know that somewhere in that explanation, you answered this probably at the beginning. But going back to the sand that we got initially, so we're feeling now like that was almost kind of natural for that change, and we don't have to change out the equipment at that location?
No, ma'am. What we're doing, normally what they would do is to find a way to do like a concrete pack around that section. But since we're coming back in with a 6-inch liner for that area to go inside of that 10-inch, what they're going to do is put a 14 to a 6-inch swedge on it that will tie those two pieces together and won't allow that to happen again.
Okay, I'm talking about the, when we did the backwash, that area.
That's exactly what, that's
Okay.
that's how they're going to stop that from happening again.
I see.
So that section won't be opened up again, for lack of a better term.
And the consultants are convinced that we can make a productive well out of this?
Yes, and they have told me that the pumping capacity will not be as great, obviously because you're going from a 10-inch pipe to a 6-inch pipe, but it never really was about capacity for this project. We're looking at, can we put the water back down whole?
And then
What
retrieve
is
it.
it? Does it stay there where we put it? And then can we retrieve it? And does it have the characteristics that we're looking for to make it potable again?
Well, maximum holding time would be 5 years, but depending on the rate of flow on downhole. And we need to have a monitoring well tell us what we've got. If nothing else, that could be used as a monitoring well going forward.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
And would this be a lessons learned on what to look for before you start the backwash or something?
I think the lesson learned on this is don't rehab an existing well. That's going to be my recommendation moving forward. If you remember our discussion in CIP, part of that there was a $2.2 or $3.2 million project to rehab a well and to drill another well. When we get into that, my recommendation is to not rehab a well.
And yet, this one still can be functional for us.
This one can be I believe this one can be functional. Maybe not as a full production well like we intended, but
It'll
if
need
nothing
more
else, a
TLC.
monitoring well. Yeah, monitoring well. We can come back in, later on with approval from council and drill that other ASR well, 100 feet away from it and use this one as a monitoring well. So
see.
it's
How old is it, Donald?
that well was drilled in 1970, I believe.
Okay. All right.
Going forward, we probably wouldn't look towards rehabbing an existing well for
No,
this
sir.
purpose.
No, sir.
No, that was the
The
cost
risk would be
saving
great.
that we did.
When you look back at it, you're for something you're trying to prove up, do you want to spend $500,000 and take a chance, or $2.2 million and take a chance? And I think with Texas Water Development Board's paying half of that, I think we made a good decision.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
you.
John.
Successful.
So the last city manager, the report of the night is going to be the longest report of the night. So we're going to, as we promised, we'd bring back the health fund for you to talk about. So Cheryl is going to go over the proposed changes in the health plan for employees. And so Officer Collins is handing out that information, but also with that PowerPoint, you've got the health fund document that you will insert in your budget book. Thank you. Is there enough?
Josie's not here, so.
Yeah, and I've got one on that meeting.
Be 12. I'll get one more. You.
And before Cheryl cues it up, you know, Thursday night is the first vote on the budget. So we have that meeting Thursday at 5 o'clock. So this will give you a couple of days to look at this and come back with any questions. But again, we have 2 other votes on the budget if you've got some concerns about the health fund. Ready, Cheryl?
I'm ready.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Before I begin, I do want to point out my support in the audience, Wanda North from our HR team. She has all the answers to your questions. Yes, okay. So thank you, Wanda, for being here. So as we present tonight, and you have in front of you a handout of the presentation that I'll go through, as well as the health fund document provided by Finance. So Gilbert is here to answer any questions as well as myself. If you want to hang on to those questions, however, till we finish it, we've got some slides that might answer some questions as they pop up, but we'll be glad to answer those at the end of the presentation. So our goal continues every year to manage our self-funded health plan in a way that balances the city's contributions as well as the employee contributions. And also, a goal is to limit, of course, the amount that we draw down in our reserves in the health fund itself. Factors that we looked at and considered for next plan year, which is actually starts January 1 of 2019, but it impacts this fiscal year 18-19. Is an annual healthcare inflation trend that continues to increase with medical inflation. Our benefit consultants tell us that trend for this next plan year is around 10.5%. It can go anywhere from 8 to 12% we've seen historically, but 10.5% is what they're projecting for us this year on inflation. We also looked back at the last couple of years with our high health claims experience, which you'll see here in a minute with some of the graphs that we will show you, and how that's impacting our self-funded plan. And then we have been, unfortunately, pulling down and causing our reserves to decline because of those high healthcare costs. Currently, we're projected to end this fiscal year with only 3.5 months reserve, which is a projected $2.1 million. When our desired target would be anywhere from 8 to 12 months, 12 months being ideal, but 8 months being comfortable. But right now you can see we've been drawing that down for the last couple of years and subsidizing the health fund with those reserves. And tonight we're going to bring forward to you a recommendation that we believe is going to hopefully help us with regards to stabilizing that. So I show this chart every year, so it goes back to fiscal year 10 and 11 on where we've seen employee medical claims expenses. The last couple of years we've seen 16, 17, and then our projected ending 17, 18 fiscal years where we have hit those very high dollar claims, healthcare claims for our employees. And so we're feeling the impact of that when we pull down our reserves. That's due to some very high costly claims. We've had some stop-loss claims hit with regards to that stop-loss deductible 175, which is good, but you've got a lot of claims that hit 175 or maybe a little less than that, that's impacted in those numbers as well. You'll see, however, that we do have a decline for fiscal year 18-19. We believe that, again, that's a projection, depending on what are the health claims or our health experience looks like. But based on what we're proposing tonight, we believe that there should be an impact with regards to lowering that spend on medical claims for employees. So I know this is a very busy chart, but let me try to explain what we've got going on here. So the health fund fiscal year 17-18, just a graphic that sort of shows what makes up the revenues in the health fund as well as the expenditures. And the ending working capital balance, as I mentioned before, at 3.5 months for fiscal year 17-18. And then we laid right next to it what we're projecting for fiscal year 18-19, and again, revenues and expenditures. What I want to point out in fiscal year 18-19 is the revenues are coming ahead of our expenditures. This has probably been the first time I've seen that since I've been with the city. But it is because of that one-time $1 million transfer that Gilbert mentioned earlier in the budget process. Without that, our revenues would be $6.6 million that we're projecting, where our expenses, of course, are outdoing our revenues at $6.7 million. As we look at that, we're projecting an ending working capital balance of 3.6 months versus 3.5. So basically what we're proposing to see happen for plan year 19 is really keeping this stable, we hope, with regards to our revenues and our expenses. This is just another graph that shows the raw numbers. We did put up fiscal year 16 and 17, and then again our projected for 18 and 19. You'll see that one-time transfer under fiscal year 18-19 under revenues. I'm sorry, question?
And, I didn't know if you were going to get to that transfer. What funds is that coming from?
It's across from general fund, water fund, and environmental fund.
You just proportionally pulled it out?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Basically, that's the only funds that we're looking for.
Well, I understand. I mean, and they're healthy. Those are all healthy fund balances, as I understand it. So, thank you.
No problem. So you can see down there at the bottom with regards to the delta between our revenues and expenses over the last several fiscal years. The city's been subsidizing with its reserves what we've been seeing as far as expenses and revenues. Again, for fiscal year 18-19, it's that $1 million that's got us upright, but without that, we would show a negative as well. Therefore, it brings us to our recommendations on what we want to recommend for plan year 2019. Under medical, we do want to move forward and apply the 10% increase to our medical premiums for plan year 2019 for actives as well as our retirees under the age of 65. I will show you here in a minute what that looks like from a dollar figure standpoint. We also want to move forward and replace our PPO traditional health plan with a high deductible health plan, offering 2 high deductible health plans for our employees to choose from. We are continuing to look at cost saving benefits. This year we've brought forward a high deductible health plan preventive maintenance drug program that we've worked with Aetna to provide to our employees. That allows our employees to get some of those maintenance medicines that they need to take for either high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes at a very low cost, if no cost at all. And then we have introduced this year a teledoc service for our employees, which is $40 charge for them to access telemedicine, either by FaceTime or by phone. Or website-based, and so that's new for us. We just rolled that out the last couple of months, so our employees can take advantage of that. And then the 100% preventive care benefit still applies. Sometimes I think our employees forget how rich that benefit is, but one thing out of healthcare reform that was a positive was preventive care benefit being covered at 100%. So well child visits, well women visits, well men visits are covered at 100% under our plan, as long as there's not a diagnostic component there. Exploring other cost-saving measures, we continue to work with our benefit consultants to look at other cost savings measures for our employees. We're exploring some options that might look like covering some office visit charges per employee enrolled in the city's health plan. We don't have anything finalized on that as of yet. We're just in the initial analysis phase of that, but that's something that, if we can, we'd like to have available and offered to our employees come 2019. And then we continue to shop around and look for prescription discount programs. They're out there. We don't have anything formal on that. An individual actually can probably access that better than we can, but we continue to, again, work with our benefit consultants in understanding what we can provide to our employees in way of discount programs for prescriptions. So that is our recommendation under the medical caption. Under dental, we are recommending dental premium increases for plan year 2019 as well for active employees and retirees. We are not recommending any design changes under dental, so what our plan is today, we're recommending stays in place for 2019. And then I always want to make sure it's not all about the premium cost. It also is about administration cost. And that's one area that we can continue to challenge ourselves on. And we do so every year, which is some of the reason why we have changes to our networks and changes to our TPA, is to continue to evaluate cost of services for our administrative expenses. So why 2 high deductible health plans? We've had a high deductible health plan as part of our offerings with our health plan program since 2014. This year we'll totally go to high deductible if approved. The high deductible plans, just as a reminder, are higher deductible than the traditional type PPO plans, but they have a lower monthly premium structure than traditional PPO plans. Or traditional insurance plans in general. They're also known as consumer-driven healthcare plans, and so it really puts the employee, in our case, in the driver's seat with regards to accessing care. They pay the first dollar of healthcare till they meet a deductible, and then the plan will kick in and pay its share of that. Some of, again, that first dollar coverage helps with regards to our projections of why we're taking a decline versus in employee healthcare claims, as we believe that first dollar is going to be them to cover, and then the plan will come in after that deductible is met and then pay its share. The high deductible health plan can be combined with the health savings account. It's optional, but we would strongly encourage our employees to enroll in a health savings account. They get pre-tax dollars contributed to a health savings account that rolls over every year to help offset with regards to eligible medical expenses. And so it's a definite benefit. It's only offered with a high deductible plan. So we would strongly encourage our employees to enroll in an HSA and then start doing some pre-tax deductions to help offset that first dollar, if you will, of accessing care. Now, the IRS defines a high deductible plan as any plan with a deductible of at least a minimum for an individual of $1,350, or for a family of $2,700. So what if we stayed with our current plans? So I've talked to you about sort of where we are in our health fund, where we've been, where we will be with even what we're projecting this year going to 2 high deductibles. But if we stay with our current plans, a current PPO plan, and even our current high deductible plan as it's structured, here is what our consultants' recommendations are on the amount of increases that we should be at to help offset the expenditures or the experience that our health plan is having with the high claim cost as well as inflation. So in 2018, an employee only that's in the PPO plan pays $150 a month for premiums. They're recommending that employee only premium be $546 for 2019, which is an increase of about $400 a month. And then you can see sort of the tier associated with employee plus children, employee spouse, and employee plus family. The current high deductible plan as it's designed is currently our employees pay only, for the employee only plan, $99.54. That would move to $168.35. Not a big jump as the PPO plan, but still pretty significant at $70 a month. So here's the good news on this one, is we're not proposing the consultant recommendations. We don't find that this is a viable option for our employees, but we still need to move forward and do something that's going to help provide us viable options for our employees to choose, which is one of the reasons that we're steering toward the 2 high deductible plans and moving away with the PPO plan. So let me get down to what it's going to look like. Here's our design and how we would structure the high deductible health plans. For lack of a better term, we'll call it Plan 1 and Plan 2. Plan 1 would have an in-network individual deductible of $1,750, which is slightly above that $1,350 set by the IRS as the minimum. The in-network family deductible then would be $3,500. After that deductible is met by the employee, the plan would then come in and pay 80% of all in-network eligible charges. The employee monthly premium for that plan would be $162.62. And the out-of-pocket max for that plan would be $6,000 for an individual, $12,000 for family. Once that out-of-pocket max is met, the plan will kick in and pay 100% of in-network eligible charges. Plan 2 is a little bit higher of a deductible. $3,200 is what we set that at is for an individual, $6,400 for a family. This plan would pay 90%, so a little bit more of expenses paid versus the 80% once that deductible is met. The cost for this for employee only would be $109 a month. The out-of-pocket is lower than the first plan at $4,800 for an individual, $9,600 for a family. Again, once that out-of-pocket max is met for in-network charges, then the plan would cover in-network charges going 100%. This is sort of the breakdown of the employee-only then. Employee-only monthly compared to what we currently have versus what we're proposing we go to. Under the PPO plan, a monthly premium for employee-only is that $147.84. For the current high deductible, it's $99.54. And then you can see in sort of the salmon color, if you will, the Plan 1 and Plan 2, what it would cost our employees. $162.62 for Plan 1 high deductible and $109 for Plan 2 high deductible. You also see underneath that then the city's contribution and the total premium amount. So it was important for the city, for us as we were looking at our options, to continue with an 80-20 plan and cost sharing with the premiums. So we've done that with option number 2 under high deductible, where you'll see the city's contribution went up slightly from $391 to $432. And then the employees' portion, of course, went from $99 to $109. But that still maintains an 80-20 cost share with the premium structure with that plan. So this gets into really what it looks like from a different standpoint. And I'm going to walk through the next couple of charts just to try to explain how I laid this out. But this currently right now shows if I'm enrolled in a PPO plan, where I can maybe move between the 2 high deductible plans that might be offered. So if I'm in a current PPO plan as an employee only, I pay $147.84. If I decide to stay in the Plan 1 we're recommending, then my increase is going to be about $15 a month. But if I decide I'm currently in the PPO plan and I want to move to the higher deductible plan, Plan 2, then I'm actually going to see a decrease in my monthly premiums of about $40. Now that's all good, but what we would tell our employees is take that $40 and put it into your HSA account to help offset that first dollar, right? And so they potentially could be neutral with the exception of they will have to meet that first dollar before the plan then comes in and covers a percentage of cost. So as a plan design comparison, this chart sort of shows the 2 high deductible plans compared with our current PPO plans. So right now an individual deductibles annual for PPO is $1,500. For Plan 1 high deductible, that would increase to $1,750, so a difference of $250 on our deductible. For the annual family deductible, it would move, it would actually decrease. Currently in the PPO plan, it's $3,950. It would go to $3,500, so that's a decrease of $450 in that deductible. The coinsurance stays the same. It's 80% after those deductibles have been met for in-network charges. On Plan 2, the deductibles change from $1,500 if I'm currently in the PPO plan to $3,200, so a difference of $1,700. The family deductible would change from $3,950 to $6,400, which is a difference of $2,450. Here we're recommending that if I'm sitting in the PPO plan and have that 80% cost share or coinsurance after deductibles met. In Plan 2, that goes to 90%, so that's a 10% difference. Just as a reminder, in our plan design, employees do pay the full cost of dependent coverage. It is voluntary enrollment. We changed that several years ago where we didn't make it mandatory enrollment where employees had to take one of our plans. So these are options for them when they're shopping for health care. Medical coverage begins 60 days from date of hire, and that was a change we made in 2018. If you remember, we used to offer it day 1, and we came back and pulled that back to where we now offer it 60 days from the date of hire. With high deductibles, again, employees can contribute to a health savings account, but there's no co-pays with the high deductible plan because they are first dollar coverage until they hit that deductible. So let me walk through that same exercise with the current high deductible plan. If I'm currently in our high deductible plan and I'm paying $99.54 for my high deductible plan today, and I decide to go to plan 1, I'm going to see a pretty significant increase of about $63 a month to choose that plan versus staying in a plan 2, and my deductibles are going to go up a little bit, but my monthly premium cost only goes up $10 a month for employee-only plans. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay, good. Thanks for the nod, Mr. Bachnight.
It's just frustrating, that's
Yeah.
all.
I'm sorry?
It's just frustrating because it's, every year, it's worse and
Out of our
worse.
hands.
It's
You're doing a great job.
well, I appreciate that, but it's a team effort. And I know it's frustrating, especially for our employees, with the changes that we have, but to provide healthcare coverage, we're having to make some of these tough decisions. So the 2019 health plan comparison, again, this sort of just does the comparison of the plan design. Our current high deductible plan is at $2,700 a deductible. If they go with plan 1, that deductible decreases $950. But remember, they would be paying higher monthly premiums. So they're going to have to do the math to decide what's going to be best for them in the long run. The annual family deductible is set at $5,400. That's proposed at $3,500 in Plan 1, which is, again, a decrease of $1,900. This plan goes from paying 100%, which is where we've been with our high deductible plan, to 80%, which is a 20% difference. In Plan 2, the $2,700 deductible goes to $3,200, which is $500. The annual family deductible goes from $5,400 to $6,400, which is a $1,000 increase. And again, it goes from 100%, which is where we're at now, to 90%, which is a 10% difference. The same reminders apply to this structure as well around employees paying for dependent coverage, voluntary enrollment. Medical coverage begins that 60 days from day to hire, HSA, and no copays.
Would there be any changes in the medical providers? Would there be any additional limitations that you anticipate?
No, ma'am. We moved to Aetna last year with Aetna as our network as well as our TPA. If you remember, we put it all up under one house. And because of the low administrative rates that we received, we've got those low rates for 3 years. So 2 more years, we plan to stay with Aetna at least, and as our TPA as well as our network. And maybe even beyond then if the rates look good.
Okay, so they wouldn't be required to make those type of changes?
No, ma'am.
That's good.
No, ma'am. The network would stay in place, and it's a robust network, covers outside Victoria, national network with Aetna. Yeah. And it's what they consider an open access select network, so you can go to any doctor that you prefer as long as they're in the Aetna network. Yes, ma'am. As I transition from sort of the medical to our prescription health plan, high deductible would also apply to the prescription plan. So all cost would apply to the annual deductible that an employee would pay for their prescriptions. After that in-network annual deductible has been satisfied, then the in-network prescription charges are paid at either that 80 or 90% for the remainder of the calendar year, depending on which health plan is selected. I mentioned briefly earlier the cost savings program that Aetna has with their preventive medicine. We introduced this in plan year 2018, so we have that ongoing right now. And this is a means where those folks that are currently enrolled in a high deductible plan can actually get their prescriptions either with a copay kind of structure or co-insurance, or some medicines are actually 100% covered, like prenatal vitamins, for example. But these drugs and the program associated with these medications, if you will, are for those maintenance kind of conditions, chronic type of conditions. Because the last thing we want to see happen with our employees is they don't take their medicines because they can't fill their prescriptions, especially for these chronic conditions that are ongoing maintenance drugs that you have to fill. So high blood pressure, high cholesterol, anti-diabetic medicine, smoking cessation is even covered. So we would continue to educate our employees around this benefit. It reduces their out-of-pocket cost initially for those medicines that are needed. So in summary, for our proposed 2019 health plan, this is a repeat of a chart you've already seen, but it sort of lays out the two high deductible plans that we're recommending, the in-network individual and family deductibles, what the coinsurance would look like after that deductible is met, the monthly premium for employee-only plans, and then the out-of-pocket max. And again, I would stress that once that out-of-pocket max is met, then the plan would come in for in-network charges and pay 100%. Any questions on the medical? Okay, well, I'm going to transition to now dental. So the dental plan, as I mentioned before, we are going to see an increase in our dental plan for employee-only plan. You're looking at a monthly premium of $22.67. The increase would be $29.51 for employee-only. The city's monthly contribution we're recommending stay the same at $12.09. So the total monthly premium would increase by that increase that the employees would see. There's no plan design changes from our current plan. So again, the employees would pay the full cost of premiums for dependent coverage. It is voluntary enrollment. Dental coverage begins at 60 days from date of hire, just like our medical does. This plan does pay 80% of basic services that are done at dentist, and then 50% of major services. Preventive services are at 100% for 2 visits per calendar year. So for those teeth cleanings, that is already picked up at 100%, no out-of-pocket for employees. And then the annual deductible is $50 for employee and $150 for family. The orthodontic services also apply with our dental plan. So here in a snapshot is what that looks like for our different tiers. Currently, for an employee only is $22.67. As mentioned, it'll go up $7 a month to $29.51. And last but not least, the history of health plan changes compared to pay programs. I brought this forward last year about this time because we do get questions from our employees around providing a pay program, but then we have healthcare insurances. Might speaks back to your frustration comment, Mayor, for our employees. And so I wanted to just lay this side by side on what we've experienced since plan year 2015 and what changes we have made in the self-funded plan versus where we've been on our pay programs. So this is an important chart, not to only educate our employees on what's been done, but it's also an important chart with regards to staying self-funded. If we were fully insured, then our experience would speak for ourselves, and those premiums that we talked about earlier around where we should be would probably be set for us without any kind of flexibility on our part to do what we need to do. Self-insured allows us to, and I'll draw your attention to plan year 2017 when we did not have a pay program. We were able to, probably not a wise decision given our health expenses, but we were able to not raise premium increases for medical and dental that year. And that was a choice that we made. We went into making some plan design changes to try to offset some of the expenses that we were experiencing. But nonetheless, in a self-funded plan, we had that flexibility to do that for those years where we didn't have a pay program. This year, 2019, as a reminder, the pay program is a 3% across the board for all positions except those that are in the STEP plan for certified police and fire. Those individuals will receive that pay increase, the 3% across the board, effective 10/1 of 18. We have an average 3% step pay and an average 3% market adjustment for those non-supervisory certified police and fire positions in the STEP plan. They would receive that increase on their evaluation date. But we also have built in some average 7% market adjustments for certain positions. If you remember, those are the maintenance positions, some of our leadership positions in police and fire. And so that's going to be the pay program in this year's budget. And then we're coming back with some pretty significant changes with regards to our plan design, as well as some increases. Depending on what an employee chooses with the high deductible plan, if they choose one of the city's plans at all, they might see an increase or they could see a decrease. And with that, we can entertain any questions. All, of course, going to Wanda. Sorry.
Do you visit the departments to help? Do you go like actually in groups, or do they just contact you when an employee has questions about
Oh,
something?
no, sir, we're going to do a very rich employee communication campaign. We've already got some meetings scheduled where we're meeting with different departments' leadership to roll this out. And we did present it to our department heads as a means to sort of, get a better understanding of what the changes were being proposed. So yes, sir. We are going to have mandatory enrollment meetings this year, so we'll be meeting with employees face-to-face on these changes and talking through that as well.
Good, good. Back to the money, Gilbert. No, don't shake your head, no. That transfer, it's interesting to me. I think it's fine. I don't have any opposition in any way. Not too long ago in the history, our budget was different. We sometimes moved money around. This was years ago. A lot of that's been cleaned up. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, over the years, silos of money are kept where they are. We're not moving money too much, but I understand this movement. Has the concept, forget all that. Don't worry, Gilbert.
Okay,
It
thank
wasn't
you.
criticism.
How about to
I
ask
just-
questions? Okay, thank you.
I'm thinking 15 years ago, okay? Tom, help me out. You know what I'm talking about, okay. Never mind.
Well, we do transfers to the
Oh, yeah.
general fund from the
Right.
water wastewater fund and the environmental fund.
Right, now hold on, that's where I want to go with this.
Okay.
For example, I know those funds transfer a certain percentage to the general fund because they provide wear and tear on the streets. Is it time to think about doing that for the health fund? Those funds, and I'm looking at some of the department heads, have employees and they pay employees out of those funds, right?
Okay.
So is it time to assess those funds? It doesn't really matter, it's just all money coming together in one pot, 1 or 2% to sweep into this, you know where I'm going?
Well,
I
they
assume
already-
that what you're saying
They
is
already
that you
do, or-
They
make,
already pay a portion of the premium that's assigned to those funds.
if I may,
But-
I think you say set a policy, start moving a little extra more money into the health fund?
Into the health fund as an aggregate as
Yeah.
opposed to, I guess the premiums, and correct me if I'm wrong, are based upon the individual choices of the plans chosen and things, so.
Technically, we're doing that with the premiums themselves that's set up on an
Okay.
annual basis, okay?
Okay,
Out of the 600, I'm not sure the exact number, 640 employees, that's where we budget.
okay.
And we make a assumption, we know some of them which category they fall on. Now, those dollars are budgeted in the corresponding funds, and those funds are transferred to the health fund on a monthly or payday period when they have an actual deal. Now, keep in mind that and I know that we don't have a full position, and we don't have 640 positions full every time of year, so there is some funds that's still there. At the end of the year, I make an evaluation. Those remaining funds that were still left are transferred to the health fund. So technically, they're sending the total budget over there per what
Okay,
you're
okay.
kind of doing indirectly.
There's no other, I was just thinking there's some other
Now,
assessment
the health fund just a
fee, but-
little different because and when you're dealing with general fund, water fund, and general fund, you're dealing with maintenance and operations. You create a reserve there and you establish one. The health fund, you're dealing with medical claims. And we'd like to get the reserve, and you're absolutely right. I think if you're going in this direction, build that reserve to a higher level. Okay, it needs to be a higher level than normal 3 months. Because, I'm gonna give, for example, if you notice back in 2017, we had slightly over $1 million and just probably 6 high claims. That's not normal. So we need to bring that up. The only way you increase that if you increase the side of the city's premium to transfer more money over there. Now, currently, we're doing that technically because I'm moving all the money over there. Even though we have vacancy, I'm sending that money because it's needed over there. Now, if that health fund was pretty healthy like it was in the prior years, 10, 15 years ago, that money would stay in that fund. But currently, as you know, I'm sending that money, plus I'm asking for that $1 million. So back to your point, the only way we get more money into it if we increase the premium side, which technically is doing what you're
I
suggesting.
understand. I guess I just didn't, maybe I didn't make sense then. I appreciate that. You can tell me if I don't make sense.
No,
But
that's what you.
something beyond the tying it to the premiums is what I was trying to get at, but there's no point in it. You just did it. You moved $1 million over to prop it up, which is great and fine. I just didn't know if we should think about doing something like that routinely, but
Well,
you will
don't-
do it as needed.
The only time we do something like that is because I see that it's getting down to really, really
yeah.
dangerous level. If we had a normal trend in medical, which, in the past few years, that's not happening,
Yeah.
then, we won't be doing $1 million transfer like this.
No,
The-
ideally, your premiums cover your cost
Oh,
and
yeah.
help build a reserve, and you're not having, so
That's-
ideally, you've got
Ideally.
that premium. And then the employees that are assigned in the water fund, there's premiums assigned there, and they come into the health fund. So those funds are paying their share of the to the health
It-
fund.
The last question, and I think you are
Sure.
tired, and I
no.
need to be quiet.
It's just 6:30.
Other
We're good.
cities, how many, we're self-insured, how prevalent is that currently among cities our size? Do y'all know?
Well, there's a rule of thumb that if you've got about 1,000 lives, then it's advantageous to be self-funded.
Okay.
And so we've been self-funded for years.
Right.
So most cities our size there's even some smaller cities that have taken on the self-funded. Cheryl may have an exact, but that rule of thumb is there, and that's what we
Yeah,
checked
and
it
we've
a couple of
looked-
years
Yeah, I
ago.
was fixing to say that exact same thing. We actually looked, because some of our employees had that same question, and we got with our benefit consultants to look at that. But the premium structures that I showed you on where we should be was some of the experiences that we would have moved to. And the flexibility is out of our hands at that time with fully insured. It's sort of set based on that experience with our health fund. So I think at that point in time, we continue to like to see the flexibility so that we can manage as best we can and offer viable options for our employees with the health plans that we do have.
Counselor, let me remind, just one FYI, it's that, remember about 3 or 4 years ago, you set up an OPEB trust fund. We currently still paying for that out of our fund, the retiree section of the 65 over, because we don't want to delete that. Within 5 or 6 years, my point, my expectation is that, that cost will be transferred to this trust. So you should see a reduction in costs on our side if things worked out like you've been saying those quarterly reports and all that. So that's still in play. And that's my foresight in the future. Hopefully that piece of pie will be taken out and be handled by the OPEB trust fund. But right now, I don't want to deal with it because I don't want to deplete it, because I want to let it generate so it can keep generating.
And that was I'll never forget y'all setting that up. I think you'll never get the praise.
Adulation.
The praise for that, because
I won't be here
no
when
one
it gets
will report or
in, but yeah.
understand it. But no, that was a very responsible
hold
thing
your
to do.
breath.
Mr.
Well,
Halpaska,
Blue.
Mr. Halpaska, or
No,
Ms.
just my
Scott?
observation was this, because this is, we're self-funding, and the experience level each year is different. It's kind of like predicting the weather. You're looking for a more narrow target. I'm not sure it can be provided. It's more like predicting the weather. You know how
Not-
that had worked for us last year.
Not like sales tax.
Well, and I want to point out that, insurance keeps going up and nobody likes that, but this, to me, is still a very generous plan. I know if you're on the receiving end of it and your premiums are going up and your deductibles going up, you may not feel that way. But if you're on the taxpayer side of it and you're funding the rest of this, that has definitely been taken into consideration with the decisions that you made. So thank you for that. But
Thank you, Ms. Scott.
it's great that we are self-funding so that we have those options and are able to try and do the right thing for everyone involved.
Thank you for that, yes.
Thank you, Cheryl. One comment, just a reminder, Thursday night, this Thursday, the 23rd, we have the first public hearing on the tax rate, the first public hearing on the budget, and the first vote on the budget. So, and we also have an executive session. I'm sorry. Oh, Joel, I'm sorry. Joel, I just totally, I'm sorry. Come on.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I
Or do you want to wait till Thursday?
No, come on.
Come
I
on,
forgot
Jeff.
too,
I'm
Council.
sorry. I was sorry about that, Joel.
Oh, thank you, Council.
You
I'll
did
keep
such
it
a
brief,
good job
yeah.
earlier
Yeah,
answering the
yeah.
vendor questions, so.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Well, thank you for your time, Council. I'm just going to run through our budget proposal for the 2019 fiscal year and have a short slideshow presentation for y'all. Includes not only the CVB budget for fiscal year 2019, but the Boot Fest 2018-19 budget as well. As y'all may know, the Victoria CVB is funded 100% by HOT funds, the hotel occupancy tax funds, and can be used only to spent to increase overnight travel to Victoria. The role of the CVB, we kind of focus on 4 points to position ourselves as a leisure destination for travelers, sell Victoria as a sports, meeting, and group destination, enhance the visitor experience in Victoria, which includes operating our visitor center at 700 North Main, and help our local travel partners be more successful, which not only includes our attractions like the Texas Zoo and Children's Discovery Museum, but events here in town. Just a few photos of us at the Visitor Center and what we do. As I mentioned, group tours are great here in Victoria. We have especially a lot of times from Houston groups that come in, small groups that fill an entire school bus or small charter buses. One of the more popular activities to do is to go on the Old Victoria driving tour. A lot of times Jeff Wright and Victoria Preservation will do some step-on guide services for them. And we'll provide them with welcome bags and they come to the visitor center and get some information. And that is our Explore Victoria Visitor Center. We probably bring around 2,000 folks per year in there. Our high times are actually in the winter months usually, winter Texans. We get a fair amount of those staying in our RV parks. And as you can see, we have a lot of informational materials there and some just fun ways for people to experience Victoria. We do support our tourism partners through a number of ways. As you see on the left, that is one of our most recent quarterly tourism partnership meeting. We hold those every quarter and have about 30 attendees from various hotels and organizations here in town. Other services we do, that's a sign there for the Texas Mile. We'll do some signage for events. Those guys are going to be coming up again here in October, and we'll help promote them in a number of ways. Our staff is relatively small, but some great hardworking individuals there. Myself, Nancy Britton, our marketing representative, Bridget Postel, our guest services specialist, and our most recent hire, Kristen Kopecki, who's done a wonderful job as our group sales and services representative. Looking at our budget proposal for 2019, there are some proposed increases, and I'll run over those briefly. Personnel in relation to the pay increase program. Maintenance operation, there is an increase there, and that is in relation to 3 specific projects, which I'll touch on a little bit in a second more. But it is our wayfinding signs, our Victoria Trail Through Time interpretive displays, and our explorevictoriatexas.com website, which we would like to go through a redesign. That current site is several years old now, and those agency who designed it doesn't necessarily specialize in website design anymore. So it's been hard to get some servicing done. So we're looking at a number of companies who specialize in destination marketing organizations who our peers have used throughout the state. And then a small capital expense increase for some desk and computer equipment. Budget highlights, those are going to remain the same as allotments as we proposed for last year's budget. Our advertising and marketing, and we do a number of services through there. Print advertising, digital services, digital advertising such as Facebook. Our brochures, we have a line item there for reprinting those. Sports marketing, working with some of the tournament providers here in town, providing hotel accommodations if they need to bring in any officials or staff. The sports tournaments have been doing very well the last few years, softball tournaments and our golf tournaments, group meetings and sales and services to advertise to association executives, group planners to use some of our great meeting facilities here in town, and public relations, which is for quarterly tourism partnership meetings or things of the like to pay for services for that. These are some photos of our wayfinding signs. You may have seen those around town. And we do have 3 different varieties of them. The one on the far left is our wayfinding signs that are throughout the city. They're on major thoroughfares. We do have several in downtown Victoria and some in Riverside Park. The reason for the increase in the budget proposal is some of those were damaged from Hurricane Harvey. We're needing to replace those. They do have specific specifications they have to follow. And then we also have a few new attractions who would like to be listed on there. When we put up those signs, there was a number of our tourism partners who are sort of in flux still who would like to be listed. We'd love to list them on those signs. So we're looking at some content changes on there.
Those signs that were damaged are not covered by insurance or FEMA?
No, I don't believe so, because each individual sign is about $1,000, so it didn't meet, from what I understand, the threshold for coverage.
They're individually insured?
They are individually insured. And Gilbert's walked out. Gilbert, on FEMA with the signs?
FEMA didn't cover those, because you gotta cost.
Okay.
Now, insurance,
Because each sign is individual, it's not a collective.
right, and it's based on location, GPS. So,
So,
I mean, I
just a question, so are a street light, not a street light, but a traffic signal pole, each of those are individually?
on the FEMA rules that if it's on a state or federal highway funded, it doesn't qualify.
But I'm saying is for our insurance purposes, is a
Oh,
traffic
for our
light
insurance?
pole individually insured as well?
Our insurance.
Because I don't remember our settlements with them when we did, they had,
The component, yeah.
no, just the pole,
Post, you're talking about insurance or FEMA, I'm sorry, I'm getting lost here.
insurance.
Whatever that cost of that unit, that area, whatever it is, we insure that. The control box, the arm and everything else.
Individually or in a group of
As a group,
500
it's a
of
value,
them?
value as a group. I might have the control box separate, but everything else is one.
So,
You said group, you meant one intersection?
I mean, if we have 500 light poles.
The area where it's located where they tell me to insure it.
I'm just, because I'm finding it incredulous that insurance would individually try to insure these, you'd never pay the premium on them, right? But as an asset of the
value.
city,
Surprise. Sorry.
We have a value overall, like traffic signal of $500,000. I'm top of my
per
head.
intersection.
And here's the premium. But they look at all the assets together. So it's not, I don't get a premium for traffic signal or a traffic box or whatever. It's one unit, it depends on the classification falls on, if equipment overall. So that's all I can tell you, it's a pool. I'll be happy to go break it down and show you each line item, but
So this would mean that none of our signs were ever covered,
if it's not on the
So,
list, it was never
stop
put on the
signs-
insurance, it's not covered.
right? Well, individual stop signs wouldn't be covered.
Or are these different because they're wayfinding and there's not like a stop sign, they're all the same, but this one, there's only one that says Victoria this way and National Guard.
How did we replace all the signage that wasn't these in the city that was damaged by the hurricane? I don't recall seeing any of that funding come up to ask for.
We pay for that.
Donald,
You
the
talking
street
about-
signs and stuff, Donald's been they've been doing that
Yeah,
internally.
it's coming out of pocket.
And, we haven't done them all either. Those have been triaged,
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to get some recovery from another agency other than FEMA on the federal and state side of it. But as to you talking about street signs or stop sign, that's been coming out of our traffic control budget. And another example, if you recall, that City of Austin came down, that came out of our pocket.
I didn't meet FEMA didn't classify that. as a-
Well, majority of those repairs were done in a state highway,
Right.
so it doesn't qualify for FEMA.
And I think that's something we need to visit with Senator Cruz and Senator Cornyn over on FEMA not covering that, Austin coming down to help with that.
Yeah.
Because the state couldn't do it, and that's what we were told.
And they've
Once-
offered.
Once the state, couldn't provide assistance, then
That's a huge
FEMA.
safety issue.
But I won't get you a straight answer, I'll write it down, and I'll make, because I want to answer that question correctly, make sure. on the-
And when I said they offered, I meant their offices have offered, so.
Oh, yes, they've offered. We
Yeah.
just need to get them to work on our behalf.
Sorry, Joel.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry for that
Thank
rattle.
you.
Didn't find any
more
sheets.
questions on the wayfinding signs this time?
No?
Thank you.
So is insurance going to cover those?
Would they be-
Another part of the budget is and that was 25,000 for those wayfinding signs. Another allotment, 25,000 for the Victoria Trail Through Time to update some of those. Those were done in 2 phases, and we would like to add to make some of those double-sided. As you see, the one there on the left that OC is looking at, that is the Carville Hall sign right outside these doors here, and that one we would like to make double-sided. It's only one-sided. As you see on the one on the right, that was done in the phase 2, and that actually is a double-sided sign. So we have a number of those in Riverside Park that were done through phase 1 that we would like to see double-sided, and those are very popular and very well liked here in town. See a lot of photo opportunities for folks on our social media.
Just curious, why would you have it double-sided where the one side where you could stand is a flower bed or a parking lot?
That's an excellent question. So going back to, the instance of Carville Hall sign, that is a great question. I know there are a number of them that we would not double side, especially if they're, like the Victoria Advocate, the one there that's up against the building. That it's still a standable area. So, but we can definitely look at, which ones we do plan to double side.
Case by case.
Yes. The Boot Fest 2018 budget will be funded from the reserve fund that we do have still available. The estimated reserve fund balance after 2018 and partial expenses for 2019 should be that amount of $163,410. Boot Fest 2018 will take place October 5th and 6th. We will have our free concerts, free kids corral, food and merchandise vendors, Western crafters, car, truck, and motorcycle show, 5K, washers tournament, and fireworks spectacular. So some of the more popular aspects of the festival will be back. And that is taking place again in downtown Victoria and is a free event.
Is that the mayor leading the charge right there?
Actually, I do think I got Mayor Paul Blushing in the photo there on the 5K. And we're excited that'll be back and brought to us by DTAR. Any questions at this time?
Thank you. Doing a great job.
Thank you very
Good
much.
job, Joel. Thank you. Sorry about the oversight.
All right. Does this conclude our business?
Yes, it does,
Okay.
I believe.
Thank you, council. We are adjourned.